Greg McLean and welcome to episode 22 of the MK1 Escort RS2000 reassembly. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, the videos going forward are going to be a bit mixed, let's say, because I've got loads of different jobs to do all over the car. So like I said earlier, I can't concentrate on one particular area. So in no particular order, let's crack on with some of the jobs that are still outstanding. Right, now that I've got everything together, I'm going to take the grill off. That's the first job today. Take the grill off to fit the horn assemblies, which I need to make a bracket for to pick up on the original locating bolt, which I'll show you a bit later on. I need to clamp the cable in place to stop it pulling through when you pull the bonnet release, using this little aluminium holding piece I've just made out of, I think it's about maybe 5 or 6 mil thick aluminium. Just filed a little groove in the back to take the outer cable, tap it to M4. I might need to put a knot on the outside because aluminium is very soft. I don't know whether I'll get the tension, but I'll give it a good go. So that'll fit in that little gap there to hold the cable. I'll run through that shortly as well. Then I can get the bonnet release set up, the spring adjusted so the bonnet pulls down correctly. And while we've got the grill off, I'm going to sort the wiring out in behind. I just need a bit of neaten up and connect up the radiator fan. So that's what I'm going to get on with now. So I'll catch you in a second when I'm on with some of them little jobs. Well, I maybe haven't achieved a lot today, but it's been one of them really challenging days with certain jobs. One in particular, the horns, they're now fitted in there. You can just see the one in the bottom. There's two to get the two tones. They're now connected together. They fit in there really nice. I think it was made for the job. I've tested them on a battery as well and made sure they sound okay. They don't sound as good as proper air horns, but I didn't want big silly trumpets in the front panel. It would just look a bit chavvy, I think. So I think they're the best option, really. So yeah, that's done. The radiator fan is now connected properly as well, so that's another little job out the way. But the one that really gave me hassle was getting the bonnet to shut and getting it to line up flat with the top of the wings. What a nightmare. You basically tighten the spring right up and until the point where it would just and so latch. You know, you couldn't make it any tighter, it wouldn't latch. And it was still sitting up above the wings by about, I would say, maybe 8 mil. It was absolutely awful. I thought, I can't leave that like that. And I did a lot of head scratching, a lot of looking at it, thinking, what am I going to do about this? I can't leave that like that. And then I remembered that the spring itself isn't actually originally off a MK1. They fit perfectly. I think it's off like a MK3 or 4 Escort. They're the same thread, I believe. They fit absolutely perfectly and do the job. But the spring is too long. So what I've done to get around the issue is I've used the old cheap boy racer method of lowering cars where you cut a couple of coils off. And I did it sort of a small amount at a time. Kept trying it, taking it back off, cutting a bit more off, trying it. And I'll show you in a second the bonnet latching nicely, and it now lines up absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I'm pleased with that now. But yeah, the bonnet spring in particular was a real challenge, but it now latches. It opens from the inside, which is the other job I did. I've connected the cable up. I've fitted my little clamp, you can just see there, to stop the cable sliding. And yeah, that's another bunch of jobs out the way, another bunch of parts off my workbench. So right, I'll tidy up and I'll show you the bonnet closing and latching properly. Perfectly in line, both sides, as you'd expect. And releasing, as you would expect. So I'm calling that done. So something I didn't mention in a previous video regarding the fitment of the master cylinder was how I made up and fitted the rod that goes from the master cylinder to the brake pedal. Now, you can actually use the original Ford rod. The ball end on the original Ford rod is too big to fit into the Wilwood master cylinder, so you either have to machine it or file it down to fit into the master cylinder. But I just thought it was a real shame to waste the rod that came with the Wilwood master cylinder because it's a better quality and a far more substantial size. So how I've did it is I've simply cut off the rod from the end that fits onto the pedal. I've drilled a hole in the centre of the nut, which is tapping size for 3/8 UNF,
And then I've welded a 3/8 UNF nut onto the bracket so that it lines up with the hole, and then basically ran a 3/8 UNF tap through the nut, through the bracket, so that you can screw the rod through the nut, through the bracket for maximum strength. But you must remember to fit a back nut so that when you tighten the back nut up, it locks the two together. Then it's simply a case of getting your rod at the right length, inserting it into the master cylinder, and attaching the end that was designed to go onto the pedal in the normal fashion. Basically, you put a standard rod through, a standard pin, and you've attached the two together. And that's basically how I got round it. The other thing you've got to do, as you can see in the photo now, is make sure that the rod at the end, inside that bracket, is flush so that it doesn't impede with the pin that goes through. And you can only do that when you know you've got the rod at the right length. So as it is now, when the pedal's in its rest position, the master cylinder's in its rest position. And when the pedal's pushed right down, the master cylinder bottoms out before the pedal hits the floor as it should. So that's exactly how I got around this issue, and it seems to work really, really well. So yeah, I can definitely recommend this method.
Bit of a tall order arrived today. I finally got the shaft to make the Type 9 gearbox to the English axle. This came from Raleigh Designs, and it's listed as the correct shaft to mate a Type 9 up to an English axle. All the dimensions seem right, so we'll just have to hope that it fits properly.
Well, that's the prop shaft fitted, but let me tell you, that fought me all the way, it really did. I thought this was going to be a 5-minute job, and I've also got to say, I think a lot of people maybe think that a lot of the jobs I do on the car go really well, and then when they come to do it, it's an absolute nightmare. Well, let me promise you, that really, really isn't the case. Every single job I seem to do on this car, it fights me all the way. Something that you would expect to be a 10-minute job ends up being a 2-hour job. Really is a nightmare at times. And I can understand why a lot of people give up on these projects, because things just do fight you all the way, and you feel like you're constantly fighting against things, but you just haven't got to give up. So it's fitted now anyways. The back bolts, I've bought new bolts that go into the rear flange on the diff. They were listed as high tensile bolts for the correct application for the job. They've come with spring washers, and I've tightened them up to 18 foot-pounds according to the Haynes manual, which doesn't seem enough to me. Personally, I think it should be a lot more, but I'm not an engineer. These guys have worked out what these torque figures should be, so I've done it to the book. It says 15 to 18, I've went for 18. Now then, this was the difficult part, getting the slip yoke here to engage into the gearbox. Now, as you know, this gearbox is being fully rebuilt, and inside here is a bearing. Now that bearing will be new, and also the prop shaft is also new. So there's no wear on the prop shaft, there's no wear on the bearing. So the two of them were a bit of a tight fit. I've got an old yoke, and the old yoke slid into the gearbox, no issue at all. But this one was really tight. It took a bit of cleaning up. I actually had to clean up the yoke with a bit of sandpaper and then a bit of oil. The problem is you can put as much oil on it as you want. As soon as you drive it through the oil seal just spits the oil back out as it's designed to. So yeah, it took a bit of playing about. It does go in now. It does slip. It's not a tight fit. It will move. And I had a little bit of a concern that I maybe didn't have enough yoke engaging into the gearbox. So I went and did a bit of research. And what I found is, it says for a safe and stable drive, you need at least 2 inch of engagement on your slip yoke into your gearbox. 2 inch, because I'm a metric man, equates to 50.8 mil. Now I've actually got 60 mil because I measured this yoke before I put the prop shaft in. I've actually got 60 mil inserted into the gearbox. That's 60 mil from this face here to the edge of the gearbox casing. But the output shaft actually sticks out of the casing around about 10 mil. So we've got about 70 mil of engagement from the slip yoke onto the shaft, and that from the slip yoke onto the shaft, and that equates to 2 3/4 inch. So I am now very happy that I've got plenty of engagement there and it's all safe. So yeah, that part was the tricky part. That's what made fitting the prop shaft a bit of a nightmare. But it's done now, and I can forget about that and move on to something different. Right, today's little bit of progress is to fit these. And what these are is a replacement lamp holder for the ones that used to fit the rear light units. Now, I bought fully reconditioned rear light units, but they didn't come with the lamp holders. And I wrongly assumed, again, that they would be quite easy to get hold of. They're not that easy to get hold of, as it happens. But I found these online. I'll just show you the two that I fitted in. And these are listed as, they're not a replacement, but they say they do fit. They're a slightly slack fit in the holders, but I've got an idea of how to get around that, which I'll share with you shortly if it works out like I'm hoping. And the good thing about these are, it doesn't rely on the body of the light for your earth. The black cable there is the earth. So therefore you can give it a decent earth without the rear light unit becoming faulty. So yeah, these do fit in. They have the standard bulbs, and I'm going to use the plugs that I showed you in an earlier video that I've just received as well to connect these nicely into the loom. So I'll get on, I'll get these fitted. Oh, and by the way, if you do require some of these yourself, these come from, I just found it by accident. I do believe there's some Triumph lamp holders from one of the Triumphs, I think, that fit these rear units as well in a similar fashion. These came from a website. It was listed as M11RF, a guy called Mark Murphy. I think they were about $16.99 delivered for the 4. That's for both rear light units. And they do fit. Like I said, they're a slightly slack fit, but they do fit. So if you want some, they take a little bit longer to come than I expected. I actually wondered after I ordered them, it was maybe a week and a bit, maybe a week and a half, they hadn't arrived. And I started wondering whether I'd been scammed. So I emailed him, and he emailed back straight away. He said, they should be with you any day now, mate. And they were. The next day, I think they came. So yeah, I think these are a good alternative to the originals. But I'll let you know a bit more when I get them fitted in a second. Further to my earlier conversation around the gap here, I've now found some more information on the net that says that at its worst point, there should be approximately 1.5 inches of yoke shown outside of the gearbox. And we have 41mm, which is a tad, and I mean a tad, over 1.5 inches. So yeah, I think that just confirms what I said before. We've definitely got this right. The shaft is obviously being made and designed properly to fit this application. And the final thing I've just done is I've jacked up the rear axle so it's in the car. The car's in its resting position. As you can see, I've put the jack under the centre of the diff housing, just to make sure that the prop shaft is all good. It seems to be at a real nice angle, to be honest. To be honest, it would be at more of an angle downwards towards the back if it wasn't for the fact that it had such big lowering blocks. So yeah, I'm happy with that. But one thing I'm not happy with, or is constantly on my mind, is the bolts in that prop shaft at the back that go into the flange on the diff, because I just don't feel that they are the proper bolts. It says they're high tensile and everything, but they don't look right to me. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to order the proper Ford bolts and swap them over. You know, it's easy enough done, and it's only 12 quid. And you do not want your prop shaft coming out. So I'm going to spend a little bit extra money and get the proper bolts for that, because it's just niggling away on my mind and I want it right. And moving back onto the rear lights, that's the lamp holders fitted. And them little plugs, they're really good, them. I'm quite really happy with them. They make a nice neat job of these kind of situations. So what I found with the lamp holders is, the ones for the brake and tail, they fit in without any alteration. They are quite a decent fit. They're quite a tight fit, but the indicator ones are sloppy. So what I did was, I mixed a little bit of Aldridge where the little return pins are, and I filled the return pin up, and then waited till it went hard, made a little groove in it, and then that makes them fit a lot more solid. I could have probably put a little bit more, and actually I was trying not to go overboard, but that's them two fitted, and bulbs fitted as well, and the same for the other side, they're both done as well. So yeah, if you are struggling to find lamp holders for your rear lights, this is a method I think is probably worth exploring. It gets around another part issue that isn't available. I'm sure, as everything else, the likes of Motorsport Tools and that will no doubt start producing. I would say eventually you'll be able to get everything, because we're not far off now, to be fair. So yeah, that's the rear light connected up. I'll just have to hope that they both work as expected. A little bit of progress today, or this morning rather, is I've just fitted the two kick panels. The one with the pocket on the driver's side, as I showed you earlier. I went for the one with the pocket because we don't have door bins, so I thought I'd get the one with the pocket. And just the standard one on the other side. I just need a little grommet for that hole down the bottom there. And that's them both fitted. I was on the drink yesterday. Had far too much to drink, so a little bit delicate today, so I just wanted something today that was nice and easy, nice and straightforward, no hassle, which is exactly what this was. So yeah, that's another little bit of work on the interior. So I've just yesterday got back from Liverpool. I can't tell you how good that's been for both me and the wife to get away. It's just been far too long. But going to Liverpool without a trip to GS would, well, yeah, you can't imagine it, can you? So yeah, I had a trip to GS Escorts on Friday and got some more parts. So first one being the bracket that holds the shockers to the boot floor. This is in remarkably good condition, but I am going to get it powder coated along with the ring for the handbrake gaiter. I've got the door handles and openers. They obviously need a good clean up, but looking at them, I think they'll clean up really well. There's nothing on them that suggests otherwise. I finally got the back plate, the correct back plate, so we can get the back end built up, the axle built up properly. I've got the bushes, the poly bushes that go with the bracket, so I can get that mounted. I've got a set of ashtrays. They go in the rear panels. They've been open for a while, so I've now got the correct ashtrays again. They just need cleaned up to fit in there. I've got a gear knob, which is leather, and I think it might clean up quite nice. I've not been able to decide what type of gear knob to go for, because I found myself a really nice Ford Richbrook one, but the pattern was wrong, the reverse was in the wrong place, and as much as I liked it, that would really annoy me. So I'm not going to go for that, but this one's correct and it's leather, so I'll see how that cleans up. I didn't pay a lot for it, so it's worth a try. Got a set of door pull handles. Again, these just need a really good clean up. I'll show you these all once I've cleaned them up. You'll probably be amazed with the difference. So yeah, I've got a pair of them as well, because I'm buying the door cards this month as well, so we can get the doors finished off. I've got a new, or not a new, but a second-hand gear gaiter, handbrake gaiter, because the one I have is torn to bits. So this one has got no tears in it at all. Again, it just needs a good clean up, and I'm sure that will come up nice as well. I've got a windscreen wiper motor mechanism. This is something I've been looking for a while, so I appreciate the lads at GS selling me this, because they like to keep a lot of these type of parts for their own builds. You've got to remember, they do builds. They're not just primarily spares centre. They do their own builds, and he did say that it's the type of thing they normally keep for their own builds. But I'm really happy that he sold it to me. So that's fantastic. And then this is the bit I'm most pleased with. This is a new product for the Type 9 5-speed. Now, most of these, I believe, I'm told, inside there have a metal kind of rose joint setup, so they're a bit industrial feel. You know, they're a bit rattly and you know, not too refined. Whereas these have just been produced recently with a nylon bush inside. They've got the spring for the push down reverse, and the lads tell me that these are absolutely beautiful. They you know, they're really refined. They really transform the car. They're double the price of the other ones, but it's things like this that finish your car off properly. You can't skimp. So yeah, I bought one of them as well. Fantastic looking product. I'll hopefully get that fitted today, and that also comes with the clip that goes down into the selector mechanism. So yeah, we'll get some of these parts cleaned up and I'll let you see them once they're all ready to fit to the car. Right, that pretty much concludes the rear axle. I've now got the passenger side put together just like the driver's side. So as with the other side, we've fitted new bearing onto the shaft. I put 2 weld tacks on the back of the retainer, as you've seen in a previous video. I've put sealer on the bearing and the carrier, as you've seen in a previous video. We put it together with new pads, or shoes I should call them, springs. The adjuster you've seen previously has all been refurbed. So that's now put together and ready for the drum to be fitted. That took me about quarter of the time to put together than the other side did, because I knew exactly what I was doing this time. Like I said earlier, it's all about experience. If you've done it before, it's a damn sight easier than when you're learning from scratch. So yeah, this side was super easy, whereas the other side, it took me a few attempts to get it right. So yeah, get the drum on now, and then that's the axle, pretty much ready for brakes to be bled and diff oil to be put in, and it's pretty much done. And with the drum fitted and the handbrake rod connected up, we're all done. There is two other little jobs I need to do on the drivetrain. I'm replacing all studs, all 16 studs all the way around the car for metric studs. That was recommended by GS Escorts, so I'm replacing them all with metric studs because they're finer and apparently a better thread. So I'm going to get a full set of studs. I did try and get some at GS at the weekend, but Jacob's going to order me some in. They didn't have a full set. Another little thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint these centre sections black, both sides, and that is the rear axle pretty much finished. Yeah, it's took a bit of getting there, but yeah, we finally got there. And as you can see, that looks a million times better, and I've done that for both sides. Now then, I have got to say, if you have a Type 9 5-speed gearbox, I would definitely recommend you go and get one of these. I had the standard selector in, and the gears were sloppy. It was horrible. This is absolutely beautiful. It really does select gears every bit as good as my modern Audi. It's absolutely a night and day difference from the old selector. And the push down reverse works a treat. Oh, it's just a piece of class. It feels amazing in your hand, and the quality of it, it's all anodized, and you know, it's alloy. And I tell you what as well, the lads at GS Escorts handed me the original one with the steel joint in the bottom, and one of these, and I would say it's about half the weight as well. What a lovely bit of kit. Yes, they are twice as expensive as the others. This was about 100 quid, this selector, as opposed to about 50 for the other type, but my god, that is a nice bit of kit. Right, pretty much everything I've cleaned up has turned out absolutely perfect, apart from this. As you can see, I started washing it and the leather has just decayed really badly. I've got an idea for this gear stick though. I'll share it with you in a minute. It just might work. Well, as a temp, I don't think that's turned out too bad. Underneath that leather of that gear knob was a perfectly good plastic gear knob. So I've just removed the damaged leather, and the pattern's correct. It probably only will be a temp. I would like to get a different gear knob because that is obviously the Sierra style, and it's not really period correct for this car. But it's a temp. It does the job until I find one that looks right, because I've looked everywhere and I don't seem to be able to find a nice leather one. I was looking for one with I found a Richbrook one, and he had the blue Ford oval and the pattern, but the reverse was down in this bottom corner here, which is the wrong place. So that would have done me head in if I went for that. But as I said before, absolutely beautifully select gears. Really happy with that. In fact, I'm over the moon with it. So I'm just on with cleaning some of the bits up to fit, the bits I showed you before. And I wonder how old that chewing gum is, eh? I bet that's been in there for many years. There was also where the original wrappers in it as well. We'll get on and get these cleaned up now anyways. And would you look at that? If you were one of the people thinking, they're knackered, I wouldn't be using them, it can go two ways. It can go where they turn out like this, or you get them cleaned up and you find out that they are a bit rough. These handles in particular, I don't think they'll look any worse than they probably did when they left the factory. Absolutely remarkable for the age. Really remarkable. If these were Citroen, they'd probably be knackered by now, because the amount of Citroens I see today, interiors on Citroens that are only a few years old, and they look absolutely wrecked. Even the handbrake gaiter has turned out really well. There's a tiny little mark on the top, I don't know if you can just see there in the middle. But other than that, that's perfect as well. And so have the little ashtrays that go in the rear panels. So yeah, chuffed with that. Just shows you what you can do with a little bit of... started off with soapy water, then I used Autoglim interior car shampoo, just an old bottle I had. And then finally, I just put a little bit of back to black on them. It's actually just tyre dressing. I use it on all black stuff. It brings blacks up absolutely beautiful. Yeah, that's another couple of parts I can put aside, ready to be fitted as and when I get the door cards and handbrake refurbished, because I've got the handbrake there. And as you can see, it needs a bit of TLC, which I'll be doing very shortly. I'll get on with that very shortly. And spot the boo-boo. I actually handpicked these myself out the box. They were all in one box. And I didn't pay enough attention. And this is the correct one, with the hole in the middle. And this one isn't. I don't know what that one's off, to be honest. It looks very similar. Probably a different range of Ford, I would imagine. Maybe even Mark II, I don't know. No, it won't be Mark II, actually. Mark II's got different handles. It could be Cortina or anything, I suppose. But yeah, I'm going to have to get that swapped now. That's my own stupid fault.
Well, guys, thanks very much for watching. I would just like to say thank you to everybody for your continued support and some of the fantastic comments I get on a weekly basis. It's fantastic. I generally notice it's the same people all the time that give me the encouragement and the fantastic comments, and I'm really, really grateful for that. But I have to say that there are getting more and more comments where people are just kind of looking for an argument. I've seen other people on YouTube talking about this in the past, and I haven't really had it until pretty recently, probably because I'm getting more subscribers now. But you kind of find that you get people, and you can tell they're just looking for an argument. So if you're a person that gives me good feedback, thank you very much. If you're a person that gives me feedback and says, you know, no, you could do this better, there's better ways of doing this, think about this, thank you very much. That's also brilliant. I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to say that everywhere I do things is the right way. You guys have got some fantastic ideas, and I'll always take them on board. But if you're somebody who is just going to comment just to say, that's shit, that's crap, blah, 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 don't even bother subscribing, because I've had enough of it. And I'm not going to bother I'm not even going to bother answering and replying to these messages anymore. But yeah, it's a very, very small minority of people that are to blame for them comments. And it got to a point where I thought, you know what, I'm going to give up the whole YouTube thing. I've had enough of this. But I'm not going to give up YouTube for two reasons. One, because they win, and two, there's some fantastic viewers out there watching my videos all the time that really want to see it finished, and I understand that. So I'm not going to give it up. I'm going to carry on. I'm going to ignore the haters. But like I said before, thank you to every one of you that are giving me good feedback, that are giving me good ideas, are giving me pointers in the right direction. That's all fantastic. I don't expect every comment to be, yeah, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. You know, there is things where you will give me ideas that I didn't come up with, and that is fantastic. So until next time, guys, thanks very much for watching.